What's going on? Jeff Manchester, Manchester Music. Good afternoon. One of the questions that I get the most on this channel, either in a comment or email or any other means of communication, is the following. How do I get paid gigs as a composer? This is the one that I get the most. And I've put off addressing it for a long time just because I'm much more interested in talking about things like software and mixing techniques and mastering techniques and interviewing people in the industry and all the rest of it. But it's come time to discuss this very important issue. And I want to define my terms and just qualify the tips and advice I'm going to be giving. I have three main ones. First of all, how do I get paid gigs as a composer? How do I get paid work? I think that for better or for worse, this is the wrong question to be asking. The question should not be, how do I get paid gigs? How do I get paid work? How do I make money? The question should be, how do I get gigs? How do I get work? How do I build a body of work? And then when you have a body of work, you can leverage that for paid work. The reason I'm putting it this way is because we live in a whole new kind of paradigm and era as media composers. The people who are online, the kind of prominent voices advising you to do one thing or another, advice on pay and all the rest of it, I have to be honest, a lot of the people that are kind of leading the charge now on YouTube as far as composer influencers go have already made it. They have great representation in the form of an agent or someone like that. They have a side hustle, some other company where they can get money from, which is a very smart thing to do if you want to supplement your income and not just rely solely on royalties. You basically, you have some sort of other endeavor. But also a lot of them didn't really emerge as paid composers in the environment that you and I and everyone else and most people watching this channel live in. They made it a long time ago. So I think the world we live in now, this one, requires new rules and new approaches, innovative thinking to get work. And it's not paid work, it's to get work. And one more thing, the people who say, and the same kind of influencers out there, who say that you should never work for free, again, that's an extremely out of touch way of thinking. A way of thinking that I think is totally incompatible with our industry. You have to be creative. You have to be innovative. You have to be thinking outside the box if you want to get work at all, especially if you want to get paid work. So let's talk about a few ways that you can do that, in my opinion. And I say this not as someone who has scored thousands of films. I don't have a super deep IMDb page, not working for any major franchises or library music companies or anything, but I do get paid for the work that I do, and I did come up in this very 21st century YouTube sort of way, so I know a thing or two about this, and I want to share some tips and techniques with you. Tip number one. I find a lot of people are focusing primarily on the big hubs where things are being created. London, New York, LA, to an extent Toronto, Montreal, Vancouver. Try to be a hero, a powerhouse locally, wherever you happen to be. We have all those people, all the composers who have all the tools that you have, all the DAWs and keyboards and all the rest of it, that are vying for jobs in those big markets. And it makes sense, but I feel it's so much more of a competitive advantage to be powerful where you are right now in your local community. A case in point is Edmonton, Alberta. Now this was until about 10 years ago, a pretty sleepy area, Western Canada. Vancouver, which was just further west of there, was making more of the movies and video games and all that stuff. Vancouver was the hub for filmmaking. Slowly but surely, Edmonton has emerged as this powerhouse and this kind of filmmaking destination. The reason I bring this up is that I have gotten to know a lot of directors and a lot of media creators and content creators in Edmonton, and things have changed. And even getting work now, getting picked, getting a shot at throwing my hat in the ring, so to speak, for a job is tough, because the people who've established credibility as heroes, as great composers in that area, it's insane. I'm often nominated for a couple little awards, the AMPAs, I think they call them, the Rosies, and I don't win them, but the people who do, I look them up. I'm like, oh, are they like some famous composer or whatever? No, they're just people that have stood their ground, that are well known in the community, that are not trying to go for jobs in Toronto or whatever. They're not trying to go for jobs in LA. They're being awesome in their community, and you can do that too. I don't care where you live. You live close to somewhere that has a film festival. You live close to somewhere that has an emerging community of filmmakers. You don't have to be in New York, Vancouver, LA to be making movies anymore. People make them all over the place. It's adding to a whole diversity of voices in the filmmaking community, which is a whole other subject. But forget this idea that you need to be in those cities to get jobs in those cities. And that's true too. Like, you don't need to be in LA to get a job in LA. It might help as far as networking goes and having your name out there. But a lot of people from all over the world. I had a guy back at the audio engineering school that I went to who was working on shows like Storage Wars, like, LA shows, and he was in Toronto. So it's better to go against the grain. Those markets are saturated with composers just pouring in, trying to get work in those areas. And it makes sense, but there are amazing opportunities for you to be really crucial and important in your own community. And that's what you should be doing, so that when a new scene pops up, you're right there. You're established. You know the people, you know the groups, and you are thought of immediately as someone that would be perfect for this potential opportunity. Even Atlanta, the city of Atlanta, has now emerged as like a huge filmmaking destination because there's an amazing tax break. So like Baby Driver, Queer Eye on Netflix, all those shows are shooting in Georgia and Atlanta. And maybe 10, 15, 20 years ago, that was never thought of as a filmmaking destination, but now it is. And people in those areas that have built up social credit, getting to know those communities, are now doing awesome, getting work. And you can do the same wherever you happen to be. It's not all about London, Toronto, LA, all the rest of it, New York City. Forget about that. This is the time to just be proud of where you are, get to know the people in your area, and start making connections and ascending with the filmmakers, with the directors, with the editors, and being, someone that they go to in those areas. So that's tip number 1. Okay, tip number 2. Don't be secretive and private with your music, but also when it is public, keep track of it and try and exploit its value to get gigs. What do I mean by this? I have now, working for iZotope for a year and then some, one of my jobs is to find sessions and content for iZotope. And you'd be amazed at the amount of people who do not want to surrender sessions and multi-track sessions and on stems and all the rest of it because they think that their music has some kind of value if it's cachet. They think it has some kind of, inherent, like, ooh, I got to have it if it's tough to find, if it's behind a paywall, if only 30 seconds of it exists instead of 2 minutes. This, to me, is just the wrong way to think about exposure. Obviously, you want to protect yourself with rights agencies like SOCAN and ASCAP and all the rest of it, but you don't want to be giving people, you don't want this whole keep wanting more thing, 5 seconds of music, or I don't want to do any sync licensing for my track with a company because we don't want to look that way. This is not the time to be bashful anymore and to be secretive and cachet with your music. This is the time to compete with every other voice out there and make sure that you keep track of your analytics, who's looking, who's watching, all the rest of it, because there are opportunities, amazing opportunities that come from sharing your stuff as long as you have your finger on the pulse and you know what's happening to it and your music is protected. Case in point, a composer that I was hanging out with a little while ago, I'm not going to mention their name because you know them, and I think they asked me to keep the story secret, but I can kind of tease some details. Their big gig, and it was a pretty big one, came from having their music up. I think someone took their music and put it against this popular entertainment franchise on YouTube. So it looked like the music that this person had written was coming from this entertainment. I'm just going to keep being generic. This entertainment franchise. It turns out the real people who owned that entertainment franchise clicked on the link, heard the music, and even though they knew that it wasn't the music from their franchise, it was just like a copycat kind of thing, they were blown away by this music and had to track down that composer. And that's how that composer was linked to that company and that franchise and got an amazing opportunity. This is what I mean when I talk about don't be precious with your music, be open to opportunities, but also keep track of where it is and what's going on with it so you can avoid legal fees and all the rest of it. If things come to pass where someone comes after you, you can say, actually, I have it registered with SOCAN or ASCAP. I have it registered here as having, been uploaded on this day and all the rest of it. That being said, it's okay to be selective with what you put on the web. You want to be putting your best foot forward. You want to be putting your best content on there. You want to be putting your best songs, not everything, not all these half-baked ideas that are 40 seconds long. You want, beginning, middle, and end, fade out every time. It shouldn't be this deluge on your SoundCloud of just crap. And if stuff has been uploaded from some time ago and you go back on it and you realize that it's not really up to snuff and the stuff you're doing now is much better, delete it. Don't be precious about that either. But have your music out there, but keep track of it. You can do this in any kind of way. You can have bit.ly links, and if you make your stuff a bit.ly link on Twitter or whatever, you can keep track of, who's clicking it, where they're clicking it, how many times they're clicking it, where the traffic is coming from. If your stuff is on SoundCloud or Squarespace or wherever, there's amazing analytics that can help you understand where traffic is coming from, organic traffic, to click on your stuff. But please do not get rid of this ridiculous notion that if your stuff is hard to find, it'll be more desirable. It's not. Tip number 3, leverage free work to get paid work, and do it this way. And again, we're getting back to this working for free thing. There's no shame in working for free. If you saw one of the first videos that I ever did for this channel, it was should you work for free? And it was all about how there's no shame in working for free as long as there is some kind of transaction, right? Even though it's not monetary, back and forth reciprocity going there. It could be, I'll work for free if I get, to use 90 seconds in my reel from your thing, or I'll work for free if I can keep you in my Rolodex, or I'll work for free if you can provide some quotes for my website. There's always a transaction, always a transaction. It is never free. Anything in life is never free. The radio is free, but the transaction is you pay with your time, right? You're paying with your time to listen, and you're consuming ads, and that's how the content is free. There's always a transaction. It is never, ever just free, period. So, getting back to this tip. This is a tip that I got from a Sound on Sound article that was about an audio mixer, but it's perfect for composers. Here's what this audio mixer did. What he did was he would hear a commercial, he would look up the company that came up with the commercial, and he would say, he'd write them or call them, I'm not sure how, but he would call them and go, hey, I just heard your commercial. I can do a better job and I can do it for free. And then he went to another company, did the same thing. I just heard your commercial. I can mix it better, do a way better job, and I'll do it for free. Did that. He did this to 2 or 3 other companies. Eventually, he had a body of work, and then he went to a professional production house and said, here is all the work that I've done. It's all here. You can have a listen to it. This is me, this is my CV. And then he got a job that way. There's no reason you can't do this as a composer. Now, you have to do it in a very specific way. It can't just be cold calls. Go to Vimeo, go to YouTube, search by tag, search by city. If you happen to live in the same city as a director, that's even better. Go to Vimeo, look for short films, look for the director, look up their Twitter, find their name. It's easy enough to do. Say, I saw your film. I loved it. I heard the music. The music is great, but I'm better, and I can do a better job, and I'll do it for free, and I'll prove it. Do that. Do the same thing to another director, and another director, and another director. And then when you're ready, you have 4 or 5 short films that you've scored for free, mind you, but still, you got experience. You have the contact of 5 directors, and you can take that music and go to a production house. You can take it to a library music company, whatever. That is your music. It is yours to share and leverage to get more jobs, more gigs, paid gigs. That is another tip. Number 4, last tip. Harness the power of analytics and search to get gigs. What do I mean by this? When I first started, I was always going on Facebook groups and all the rest of it. I was using Mandy.com, which has a different name now. I don't remember what it is, but Mandy.com, look that up. Eventually, I went on to Craigslist and Kijiji to find gigs. Believe it or not, they are still posted there all the time. However, when I would click to try and get a gig, I would always, basically just post, and I would hear nothing back. Or if I did hear something back, it was like, hey, we filled this position like 2 days ago. Sorry, we'll keep you in mind for the next one, or something like that. They never did. So a great way to make sure that you're one of the first people that responds to an ad for a gig as a composer is to actually use this service called If This Then That. So IFTTT. This is what the website looks like. Like this. So what you do is you go, choose a service, choose classifieds like this. And then what you do is you copy and paste a search result from Kijiji or Craigslist or Backpage you can use. And what you do is you go to Craigslist, for example. You go into the gigs category. And what I did was, see, I'm in gigs right there. Composer. And then there's nothing here, obviously, because there's nothing been posted today or whatever. Go here, copy and paste this into here. And you create a trigger like that. And then from here, it'll basically just email you, and choose the plus button there. And and you can choose your mail, or you can choose to be notified via SMS or Twitter, or you can get phone calls if you're in the US, or Facebook or whatever, and that'll alert you every time that you have that it scrubs, and I think it scrubs like every 30 minutes or so, any search term, any post from someone who's like, I need a composer. So the cool thing is, if you go to Craigslist and you go over here and change the country, you can search for gigs anywhere in Canada, basically. So if you want, you can be like, hey, I want to look for gigs in Vancouver. So go to Vancouver Craigslist and then go to gigs, or you can do jobs. Type in composer. Nothing being asked now, but still copy and paste that, and then you make a new applet, and you will be notified by email. And you can do the same thing with Kijiji. I'm just going to show you how to do this really quickly. Let's search for jobs. What do we want? Media and fashion. There we go. And you want composer. Or you can type in like music or something like that. And there are a couple of listings here. Not that many, but still. Boom. Take this. The next time someone needs something, you copy and paste that. You will be notified via email, and you'll be one of the first people to respond. And that's how I got a lot of gigs, or a lot of opportunities for gigs I would pitch, and then I got them or I didn't get them. That's how I would do that. So use this site. And by the way, this site is one thing, but you can also go to Facebook, and almost every city has Find Me a Fixer, I believe it is. Or I Need a Fixer, it's called. So type in, I guess, Fixer. I Need a Producer, Fixer Crew, Canada Edition. So this is a great way. You join these groups, and then if you hang out here enough and get enough notifications, you will be eventually, you'll see, a casting call or whatever call for crew, and, boom. So there's a lot of, so I need a videographer in a warehouse space. I need production assistants. I need shooters, videographers, or whatever. And what you can do sometimes, if you want to be really nosy, is you can go in and say, hey, I saw that you posted you're getting a movie together, a short film together. If you need a composer, here's my credentials, and you email them that way. And sometimes they might not be looking for a post-production crew right now, but you'll be sort of top of mind if they do need something. So those are a few ways, I think, creative ways to be getting gigs, to build a body of work, to leverage, to get paid gigs. I think the idea, the notion that you're going to get paid gigs right out the door is foolish. It's the classic, you go in for an interview and they say only people with experience, will make the cut. And then you say, well, how do I get experience if you don't give me a job to get experience? So this is how you do it, I think, or one way to do it, or a few tips to do it. So what are your suggestions? What do you guys do? What are your what have you found to be really inventive ways to get the attention of directors and people that you want to work with? I would absolutely love to know in the comments, and maybe if enough of you comment and reply, I'll make another video with your suggestions and flesh them out in a way that can be super helpful. So this could be like number 1 of 2 videos for how to get gigs as a composer. So anyway, thanks very much. I'm kind of running out of steam. I'm going to drink some more beer, and see you later. Take care.